here.
What's up, everybody? It's your favorite big head, favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the MasterMade Scorponok, and there's a lot to go over with this, even though it's a relatively little fella, you know, in comparison to what we're used to looking at Scorponok in comparison to our other figures. There is a lot to go over because this company usually pulls out all the stops, and we'll see if they do the same this time. So let's jump into accessories. I'm going to cover some of this stuff now because it comes loose in the box and you have to plug it in, and that is these arms here. They plug in on a peg. If I can get her out. Come on, baby. Hold together. So it plugs in there. It's green plastic and gray plastic, and then it has the Tampo paint, which we've come to expect from this company pretty much throughout. And then the legs themselves, we'll go over this articulation now, so we won't have to later. They're all done the exact same way. We have a hinge here, like a butterfly type hinge, and then another hinge. Why am I getting there? And then is there something else? Like, there's so much going on here. I think that's it. So the nice thing about this, and then we have a ball joint here at the base knuckle. And then we have a hinge here that you get a little bit out of. And then we have a hinge here that gets you to about 90 degrees. So the nice thing about this is that, you know, you can have it all folded up like we had it on his back. But you can also kind of spread it out on his back too and give him almost like a winged look. But we'll get to that in a minute. And then, of course, we have the signature tail. What's nice about this is that most of these tails are always done on ball joints, I feel like, but this one is all done on hinges, which is nice. So we have a hinge at the base. It also swivels at the base, if you can use that. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 additional hinges. So it works like a champ. We have the green and white and gray plastic with white and gray and red Tampo work, and then the red translucent at the top. And all that works really well. You get 4 sets of these guns, and they're on 5mm pegs, and they can literally plug in almost anywhere on this figure. There's ports everywhere, and you can just kind of arm them up and decorate them just as much as your little heart desires. We'll show that when we show them all armored up. And then you get 2 of these little scorpion creatures. This is, to me, it's one of the cooler points of this. I don't even know how to go over this. There's so much kind of to cover. Let me see if I can't do it. All right, so we have a ball joint here for these front pincers, and then we have a hinge here, all plastic for the most part. The only paint is on the Tampos, and then we have some red paint down here on the back of the Scorpion. You have a hinge here, and you have a swiveling piece here that can plug both into the figure and can hold something else, which we'll look at here in a second. And then you have the red translucent detailings throughout the Scorpion effect. So you have the eyes and the little units. And then we have the ball peg arms on sets of 2, which I think is nice because otherwise, you know, when you have all those legs on little ball joints, it just can look a mess most of the time. So I like that they did them on sets of 2. You also have this gun here, which, I don't know, it can be a little laser cannon. It can be a little cannon this way. It can be a tail, and then it has this peg here, which I thought swiveled, but yeah, just a bit. Oh, there it is. It was just stuck. So this can rotate around. You have this port here, which you can peg in. You have the purple paint throughout here. And then you have like a little scorpion creature. And that's cool. You have 2 of those. And then he can also, you can kind of adjust him and fold him up, and you can do something else with him. You just take this guy, fold up the back legs like this, and then you plug this in here. And then just sort the fingers out, and you can have a 5-fingered hand as opposed to the kind of more traditional 3-finger hand, if that is your taste. And I think it is a cool look, don't get me wrong. And there he is, all armored up. And that's with, you know, kind of all of the options that you can use, the bugs and everything else. But there's 1,000 different things you can do with this guy. Like, they really play to the idea of playability with their figures, which I do appreciate. I mean, it's really hard to come up with something that doesn't look intimidating on this fella. I must say, it's a good look. But that's not all, folks. We got a couple more things we need to talk about before we can talk about the figure. One is this chest piece does come out. You can place the battery in there. That lights the whole thing up, and the button to light it up is right there. I told folks I would try to give the type of battery in the review. It's described in the instructions as a CR2032 Skip-A-Space 3V. And that's why I don't deal with any of that nonsense. And then we have this feature here. So one, you could take the visor out if you prefer that look, and then you just flip this piece back. I've already untabbed it. It is a bit of the first time you do it, it's a bit of a bear. And then you just grab this piece and pull it out. And then we can transform this guy. So bring the feet down, bring the legs down, and straighten them out, and then rotate the waist around 180, and you have this fella. And then sort the arms, obviously. And he's okay. There's an issue, like these ball joints here are loosey-goosey. And that could be an individual. So is that hinge. So the tolerances here are a bit off. We have gray paint on the head. The head is on a ball peg, loose also, but that's not as much of a big deal. Light piping for the eyes, you know, that's not my thing, but whatever. White paint on the face, all that stuff. Actually, that might be plastic, but all that stuff looks good. Gray paint on the chest, waist swivel, obviously. Arms are on a hinge. It's like a universal joint, which I wouldn't have expected, but that's nice. You get out to there and then around. And then bicep swivel is there right above the elbow. And the elbow gets you less than 90 degrees, but for a little guy like this, I think that's okay. And then we have the hinge at the knee. We have ball pegs and you could tell they even put some goop in there. I don't know if that's at the knee. I can see the goop. But you got a hinge at the knee for 90 degrees. The ball pegs get you everything you want except for stability. And then the ankles are on ball pegs as well. So you get tilt and rocker a bit and all that. So, it's good in spirit, but it's not very good in execution. But let me also say in the same breath, getting that head back in sucks. So the headmaster is kind of crappy anyway, so I would advise to not even just take it out. That's my honest opinion on it. Anyway, it is on a ball peg, a massive ball peg. Articulation still relatively limited up to there, down to there, and then the swivel. So it's not bad. It's just, it's not outstanding. It's fine. We have red paint here on the helmet, a darker gray paint, and then the Tampo paint throughout. So that's all good. The arms are really well articulated. We have a soft ratchet swivel, and then we have the hard ratchet outward hinge. So it's like a universal joint. That all works well. Gray and green plastic. We have this orange paint here, which should have gotten a second coat. It didn't cover well. And then we have some green paint up here, which is slightly chipping. And then the Tampo paint. Bicep swivel. That's also ratcheted. Elbow, get you just about 90 degrees. That's ratcheted. Gray paint, Tampo paint, and then this orange paint in there with a little bit of overspray. Let's see if I can't zoom in on that. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's a little bit outside of the green box. Not a huge deal, but something worth noting. And then you have these units, which are on ball pegs, which can be moved around. And then we have the red translucent here on the hand. We have the fingers, which are really well articulated. They swivel, they hinge in and back and forth and in and out at that first knuckle, and then hinge a second time on the second knuckle. So you should be able to get everything you want finger-wise. And then we have these extra flaps. I didn't mention this, I don't think, but when you have the other thing on top, they advise that you spin these around to the back, but you spent the money for the figure, you can have them any which way you'd like. The thumb swivels so that you can have a proper hand thumb or the more traditional kind of Scorponok thumb. And then that hinges at the base knuckle and swivels on a ball peg, and then it has an additional knuckle as well. And then we have this little thing in there, this sculpted cannon of sorts. And then the Tampo paint throughout, and then this red paint inside of there. All good. Waist swivel, that works fine. We've already talked about the tail and arms. And then we'll talk about the hips, which oddly, well, I guess it's not. It's just the wave of the future. But no outward ratchet, no front and back ratchet. Now, as a result, the range is great. You get, I'd say let's give him the full Van Damme for that, and the full Monty. But you don't get the ratchet, and these legs are heavy. Now, they hold fairly well. You know, there's die cast down here in the bottom of the feet, so they're heavy. I think they should have been ratcheted. I think that, you know, instead of having a ratchet in the bicep swivel, maybe put a ratchet in here. Would have been my guess if we were trying to save money. If we were trying to just, you know, do it the best we could, then probably ratchets in both. And then we have this gray and purple plastic. We have orange paint on top of the purple. That turned out much better than the orange paint on top of the gray. And then the Tampo paint, gray paint in there. Thigh swivels just at the universal joint, which isn't hateful. I'm okay with that. Like I when it comes to thigh swivels, I don't think the range of motion needed you don't need that much, in my opinion. So I'm okay with that. You may not be, but I am. Tampo paint throughout, gray paint on the white down in here. That looks good, really good. Orange paint, once again, not quite as clean. Now, you could make the argument, once again, that it's light sourcing. You know, it's not purposefully light sourcing, I don't think. But I think if you were to see it that way, you wouldn't be wrong, and it would look good. Knee, single hinge, or is it double? Yeah, it's double. Double jointed knee, getting you a great range, so no problems there. These knee pads do cover down, so no problems there. Ankles, I thought they swiveled a bit more, but I guess not. Oh wait, they should. Yeah, they swivel a little bit because they're on. It all operates off this ball peg, this massive ball peg in there. I'm not sure if you can see it. The feet are completely painted with the exception of this piece, which is just added on in these two pieces. But the gray is painted and then the orange is painted on the green because it's all die cast. So you got an ankle rocker, bit of a swivel and a tilt up to there and down to there. So articulation wise, he works pretty well across the board, no real issues. And since I forgot to show it, I'll just cut it in. He cleans up pretty well on the back. Like Scorponok always has some stuff going on his back, so I think we should expect there to be stuff, but I think it looks good, looks cohesive, looks part of the plan. All right, so let's go to Scorpion mode. This is a very large piece and it's a bit cumbersome, so I'll do the best I can to get it all in camera. Get the arms up and out of the way. All right, on the back, we're gonna unhinge this tail and we're gonna leave it sit out. You're also gonna probably, actually we'll just go ahead and do that now. Lift up one side here of these Scorpion arms so that you can rotate this middle section around, which will operate independently of both the upper torso and the lower hips. So now we have the tail, the head, and the knees all on the same side of the figure, which is what we're looking for. Now, for the feet, this whole assembly that this giant ball peg is on rotates all the way back. Now, I guess you could say that's an extended ankle tilt, and I wouldn't fault you for that, but I'm not sure it's the intention. And then rotate at the hips up, and then at the knee joint down, so that you get, you know, you turn that straight leg into like a lowercase n. So same for the other side. And this joint, this ankle joint is tight, Mac. And then up here, and then down. Now, this will allow you to bring this tail assembly, and these two pegs will go into these two ports, and it's just a matter of lining it up properly. There. Now, once you have that done, make sure before you start that your Scorpion legs are put on properly. I'm not sure that mine were on properly initially. Where this angled piece, this triangle piece here with the Tampo paint is up. So then you want to flip these down. And then this port will kind of go into this hip joint here. And this will go into one of those. Let me check the instructions because I'm not sure exactly which one it's supposed to go into. It looks like the outer one. The instructions are not great. I might have to do that off camera. And then you extend these legs. I'll try one more time. Nope. Nope. And then you do the same for the other side in theory. Let's see if this one works any better for me. Yeah, that one worked fine. So I just had to figure out what's going on with this one, that it's not lining up quite properly. But I'll fix that in post. And then you rotate the head around and sort, you know, just arrange the arms so that the elbow and wrist are facing, you know, the appropriate way. And I'll get it cleaned up and we'll take a look at it. But that is it. So there he is. And I think it works pretty well. I'll be honest with you, like, I still don't have this back part pegged in. You can see it's a little crooked. That means everything is just not quite centered. But I think you get the general idea, and it doesn't belong to me, so I don't want to put too much wear and tear on this thing. But I think you can still get the idea that it does work. It is a pain trying to get everything to line up, because everything does have to line up in order for everything to sort of peg in properly. It's not a huge pain, but it's enough where obviously I couldn't do it, you know, without trying to kind of untab and tab everything back in. But I think it looks good. I think it looks, the part, I have the guns plugged in here on the knees and on the shoulders, and I think it all in all looks well. I think it's huge, you know, for what it's trying to be. And the only critique I would have are the legs. The ball joints in the legs are not all of them are tolerance well. So some of them are a little bit irritating to deal with. There are all these flaps here too on the sides of the legs, which you can flip out to the other side if you like that aesthetic a bit more. I think I might. But I think that these legs, I think it's okay. So I think it's smart that they don't hinge any further, because it helps brace the weight of the figure on those hinges. So I dig that. I'm just not sure if if the ball joint feature is the most appropriate for this, because some of the ball joints are loose, like you can see there, and as a result it is slightly frustrating, but nothing that you can't fix with some quick posing and kind of be done with it. But I think overall it's fairly successful, and definitely, you know, indicative and in the spirit of the character. Now getting into base mode is slightly simpler. You just unpeg. Let's unpeg down here. Got one I really got in there, and one I couldn't get in there at all. Collapse this up, and then extend the tail straight up. I know not all this is in frame, we'll show it later on. Rotate at the shoulder up so that the claws are facing up. Flip the legs. Goodness gracious. Like, I hate this. I hate the head on this thing. I'll get it back on. Flip the legs around. Oh, wait. Like this. On both sides. So spin and flip. Because what you ultimately want is these to be on the floor as, like, you know, framework for the base. I hope you can see all this. And then on the back, once you have that in, you just adjust the feet kind of accordingly so that they sit flush to stabilize the base. I'll get it cleaned up, we'll take a look at it. And there's his base mode. And the one last thing you can do is you can take one of your Scorpion fellas, put the legs down, and then there's a port here where you can plug that guy into, and then you can take your guns, of which you have two, and adjust accordingly. I tell you what, I'm just about done with this thing. There. It's just frustrating. It's a frustrating piece to try to show for a number of reasons, which we'll talk about in final thoughts, but like that. And there you have it. And it is complete, and throw in extra little Scorpion fella running around for no good reason. I'm a sucker for these base moves, especially Scorponok, because it just always tends to look so menacing between the tail and, you know, just a lot of the motif, these claws and such. So I'm a sucker for this, so I'm definitely biased, but I think it does look pretty interesting and usually cool. I think it's harder to make it look bad than it is to make it look good, and I think this does look good. Now, you guys know, for my final thoughts, I like to do the negatives and then I like to do the positives. But for this one, I think we're just gonna freestyle it, because there's just an awful lot of mixed feelings that I have about this. My biggest issue with this is, like, it's very clunky, which normally wouldn't be a problem, but there's also inconsistencies in the joints. For instance, the ankle joints, one is way tighter than the other, etc. So there's stuff like that all over the place. Some stuff is too tight, and then some stuff is too loose. As a result, it makes dealing with it kind of a bear. Now, what's been weird about this is that, like, this company has steadily increased their level of quality. I feel like, you know, Omega Supreme was slightly better than Trypticon, which was significantly better than Metroplex. And this, I don't feel like is as good as Trypticon. So for me, this is a step back. Now, I say that to say this. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It's not. It's not bad at all. It's just not as good as what I've seen in the past. It's not as smooth. It's not as fun. That's one of the things that they've been able to do, really, is make their figures fun. Now, it still has the same bonuses across the board, which the company has continued to have. It's like I've said in the past, they just kind of check all the boxes that people like down the list, you know? Diecast, check. Paint, check. Now, to be fair, they're doing more paint apps than they have in the past, as opposed to just Tampo paint, and you can see the inexperience in that department. But let's continue. Articulation, check. Good materials, check. Sculpt, check. Easy transformation, well, check engineering-wise, just not efficiency-wise. Different plastic breakup, check. Fun accessories, check. Like, I feel like they really try to give collectors everything they want, and most of the times they're successful. And it's not as though this is entirely unsuccessful, it's just not as successful as they have been in the past. Another huge issue on this thing is this thing's huge head, which is part of the sculpt. I get it. I'm not talking about that proportionately. What I am talking about is the headmaster. He is a mess. He's difficult to get in and out of the head. He's a floppy mess in bot mode. It just isn't working for him. Like, it just needed to be redone from bottom up in that regard. And I can tell you, it's a pain in the balls to get him back in the helmet. Also, I did want to mention there is a bit of a butterfly joint. I didn't mention that, so that's nice. Articulation here isn't the issue. Most of the things here aren't the issue. The issues are it's clunky, the joints are inconsistent, some of the paint needs 2 apps, the headmaster needs to be rethought from the ground up. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it's really not as bad as it seems when I'm talking about it, because there is so much that's good about it. So this one's a hard one for me. This is a hard one for me to recommend. I don't know, because there's a lot of good here, you know. And I think as a display piece, you'll love him. I think what's bumming me out is that he's just not as fun as some of the other ones have been. He wasn't as fun to review, he wasn't as fun to photograph, and he wasn't as fun to pose because of the joint inconsistencies. But he's not terrible. Let me check the price on this guy before I give my recommendation. Destruction Scorpion. 200. Oh my God. I had no idea. No, I don't recommend this. I think at $200, everything should be perfect. Maybe like if it was just the paint apps that were missing, you know, in terms of like the paint apps are there, they just need a second coat on the orange. Like little stuff like that, I would let go. But there's too much wrong here to recommend it for $200. And that breaks my heart, because I think I've given everything else that they've put out a recommendation. Yeah, there's not enough here that's done well enough for me to recommend this for $200. Your $200 could go towards a lot of better figures. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't recommend this. Now, if you have it and you like it, you win. You know, I just feel like Ooh, I'd have to put this around the 125 to maybe 150 tops for my taste. I think this is something where there's enough wrong here where the price needs to be taken into account. I want to thank E.M. Tyler for giving me the opportunity to take a look at this fella. I hope he doesn't defriend me now that I'm not crazy about it. You know, but like I said, there is a lot good here. There's just not $200 good here, in my opinion. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.